All right. Well, welcome back, everyone, to SoulBack. This is the R&B podcast. Kyle here, back with Tom and Ed. We are back. We took a week off, and we're here to talk about something special today. But before we do that, guys, I don't know if it's weird for me to say this, but happy Valentine's Day to you guys. I hope you guys have done good things for your significant other.
Oh,
Ed, what are you doing
God.
for your special lady? The
Playa,
chocolates?
I can't.
The candy?
I can't reveal everything. A player has to keep some things in house, but rest assured the game continues to be tight. But we do have a big day planned tomorrow, and it'll be fun. We're gonna have our couples podcast on Facebook, Party of Two. That's gonna be popping, and we've got a few other social media surprises. So check out your boys' account. But what stays in Soul and Stereo Studios gonna stay in the studio, dog. I'll just keep it at that.
well, let me ask you guys this. Have either of you ever given the girl that, I don't know how to explain it. It's like this cheap looking bear that comes in a basket wrapped in plastic. It's like
I
in
know
the dollar
exactly
store
what
or
you
something.
mean. Yeah, it's
Have you
straight
ever
out of
given
the
a girl-
pharmacy.
Yes. Have you ever given that as a gift?
No.
No,
Okay,
I have
good.
not.
All
But
right,
they
I thought
guys
you were
are
gonna say
safe.
you did. Did
No.
you get Marlene one?
I
don't
joke
know.
with Marlene every year. I'm like, there's your gift.
To be fair, they're probably like $20 on Valentine's
Yes.
Day. That's how
Yep.
they get you. But I mean, we have so much to talk about this week. You know, we've done the revisiting of years. Now we're really going to take this opportunity, and this might change along the way because we're just trying to find the best topics and discussions to talk about. We're going to talk about Timbaland today and revisit his career from the start all the way to present day. But before we do that, I have a question for you guys
I can't wait.
Oh boy.
pertaining to Valentine's Day. Let's go back on Valentine's Day.
What is- All right.
What is the most expensive meal you've paid for, and what is the cheapest meal you've paid for on Valentine's Day?
Oh
Tom.
my.
Am I gonna hear?
I'm
Am I gonna hear a Burger King in here somewhere?
I'm going to pull an Ed
Probably.
line. Here's an Ed line. I'm going to keep it real with you, players. Me and Marlene, and this is the smart way to go, do not celebrate Valentine's Day
Excellent.
because, and thankfully she's on the same page, it is not a real holiday. We celebrate each other throughout the year, and thankfully that's worked out.
And you see, I'm not mad at that. Like, I'm not mad at anybody that does that. I only get mad at you salties who go around throwing tomatoes at people who do celebrate. But if
No,
you're like,
no.
you know, I'm going to celebrate, we're going to celebrate all year long. This is just another day. That's cool. A brother respects that. But you salt throwers, you shade sackers, you sit down and let people be in love.
Well,
What
I'm
about
like
you, Kyle?
Shantae's got a man.
Kyle, didn't you take a girl to IHOP once?
yeah, but that was on my birthday. That's different.
Oh, that's a free meal.
Excuse me.
It's my birthday. Can we give a shameless plug here?
Oh boy.
Can we give a shameless plug to Carlton Cards, who charge $10
Oh
for
man.
a card?
Yeah.
Who does that?
Play them because I do have to buy a lot of cards. You know, I'm away from my folks, and a lot of times I will send Valentine's cards and birthday cards. Those cards, player, are like $10-15 each. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
I will
That's
tell
the
you guys
cost
though,
of a Ninja Turtle in 1991. What's going down?
the one thing I like about Valentine's Day is conversation hearts. One of my favorite candies of all time, believe it or not.
You
I don't know why I
would
like
like
them.
conversation hearts. They taste like chalk that you write on a
Yes.
chalkboard with.
Yep.
I love that chalk.
Oh God.
Well, it's better than those like red cinnamon hearts. No, that's
Oh,
disgusting.
True. That
That's
tastes
bad.
like gum. It's like toothpaste. I don't want cinnamon candy.
Uh-huh.
Oh boy, we have a guest in the house, Triborough Gigolo, our dude who was trying to call us out really hard a few weeks ago.
Why was he trying
Man.
to call us out?
He kept naming people we were leaving out. I forgot what the discussion was, and he was like way off on all of them. But I think it was about if someone had classic albums or was a legend. I forgot
No,
the
it was
exact-
about Amory, but that was weeks ago.
Oh,
guys.
Amory had no hits. That was
Yes.
the one.
Oh, okay. Yes, I remember that lie. Okay.
That was weeks ago. We're moving forward. Water under the bridge. Today we're
Yes,
talking
yes.
Okay,
about
we good.
today we're talking about Timbaland, VA's own Timbaland, or Ed.
If
as,
we're gonna celebrate him, Kyle, shouldn't you pronounce his name correctly?
Sorry, this is what I see on social media a lot, Ed. Like I've seen Darnell Jones, but I also see Timberland. Can you please explain this Timberland?
I don't know why people just don't actually look at the letters that are in the name. There are Timberland boots. I'm sure Tom is very familiar with them, being from New York. That has a little tree on the side. That is Timberland. And then you have Timbaland with a whole bunch of A's in it. That is the legendary producer from my home of VA. Shout out to my boy. Love him to death. My favorite producer of all time. And I feel like one of the best all-around producers in the past 30 years. Hip hop, R&B, even pop, even rock. He's done it all.
So Tom, Ed explained who Timbaland is. He explained Timberland the boot. So let me ask you, who is this Justin Timberland? Because I've seen that too. Just Justin Timberland.
I've seen that. I remember seeing that when his first album came out. They called him that. I love it.
So,
oh my God. It's like in Dragon Ball Z when they do the little fusion dance and turn to one person. That's what that is.
Yes. I mean, we got to talk about Timbaland from the beginning of his career as we know it, because we could spend an hour talking about just his time in the basement. But for the sake of time and for the sake of us having a Devontae discussion in a future episode, we're going to jump right into 1996 here. And I'm going to name out a couple of projects, a couple of songs. And Ed, I want you to talk about the impact that these records had on R&B. I'm talking about songs like Pony with the burps, with One in a Million by Aaliyah with the cricket sounds. Like, talk about that era.
I've discussed a little bit before about how just impactful that is. It's hard to describe. If you started listening to R&B in 2003 or like 2009, because the production is so layered. Back then, production was not presented in this way. And when you had beats that were essentially beats on top of beats on top of beats, and I'm going to throw in this weird sound effect that has absolutely nothing to do with anything, whether we're talking about the crickets or later on the baby crying and later on Godzilla was screaming. All of these things that were accentuating these beats that on paper should make absolutely no sense, but essentially became his distinct sound. His distinct sound was dark. It was weird, but it worked. So when these beats came out, you instantly knew a Timbaland beat because it was like nothing else on the planet. It just felt like something that was plucked from outer space. And that's how he made his name as a producer. He introduced a sound to R&B. In my lifetime, I can't think of another producer who immediately just changed the landscape with like 2 or 3 beats. That's how impactful his work was.
I'll start with the Ginuwine album, Kyle. I know you love this album too, but man, that album still sounds fresh for me to listen to. It was just so innovative. The production he had throughout the whole project gave us something we never heard. Honestly, it was probably a bit risky at the time if you think about it, because it didn't sound like anything else that was out. They took a risk. You know, Pony blew up, obviously. I'll Do Anything, I'm Sorry. We love that song. Absolutely love it. There's some other great ones on here, but that definitely was the groundwork for a lot of other music to come in R&B after it. I can only imagine how people who were fans of like 80s R&B were rolling their eyes at this sound coming into R&B. But man, Kyle, we love this album.
But I'll say this though, as somebody who was, I mean, I won't say that like I was obsessed with 80s R&B, but I was around people who were. They were just kind of blown away. It wasn't, you know, we hear today the divide where it's like, oh, this doesn't sound like hip hop. This sounds like hip hop. This doesn't sound like R&B, blah, blah, blah. We get that. And that would happen later on. And actually, it happened a lot in the early 90s. That's another story. When these beats came out, it was just like, I don't know what this is. Right. I've never heard anything like it, but I kind of dig it. And that was the genius. Tom said that this was like a risk. It was a huge risk. But it worked because it was just so different. You couldn't say it was a bad beat. You couldn't say it didn't work. And there was still the foundation of R&B because we still heard actual vocals. We still heard singing. We still heard good songwriting, even though the songwriting was very different for the time. It was still R&B just placed in a different space.
I want to bring up the Aaliyah album as well. That one came out, I'm looking at the release dates, a couple months before the Timbaland One in a Million album. And he didn't produce this whole album like he did for Ginuwine, but he had, I'm looking at the track list of the songs he did. Beats for the Streets intro, Hot Like Fire, One in a Million, If Your Girl Only Knew, 4-page letter, and then Heartbroken, Never Coming Back, and Ladies in the House. And Missy wrote on a lot of those songs as well. We always have to give her credit when we mention Timbaland, but songs like One in a Million, which you mentioned, that I love. If Your Girl Only Knew, just the vibe of that song.
Yep.
4-Page Letter is so timeless. I mean, every song he did on here was super dope. I love both of these albums. Some of my favorites of all time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And go ahead, Kyle.
No, I was gonna say, Ed, when you go back to the point of people from the 80s that loved 80s R&B and how they felt about, this sound, I will agree with you. A lot of people love this sound, but there was one fan base that hated this sound. And when we talk about stands and factions, I mean, we have the Beehive, we have the Rihanna fan base. I've never seen a fan base more toxic, guys, than the Prince fans. Have you guys been on that Prince forum?
I have not. Go ahead. I would not say they are the most toxic.
My
they
goodness.
Are up there.
They pretty much hate everything, and
they do.
They especially hate Ginuwine's cover of When Doves Cry, which, as a Timbaland fan, I love his cover. But Prince fans, man, if you mention that cover in front of them, they will rip you to shreds.
I mean, I'm not. I mean, I've gone on record. I'm not a big fan of it either. It's an iconic record that just like they tried something different, and props for trying something different.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't really work for me. But I do think that this was an opportunity to put a new sound and a new face on it. In that case, it didn't work. And a fan base will hold a grudge for 40 years, which is why they're still pissed off. But they tried it. It didn't work. He had better songs. Whatever. Move on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing about Prince, though, and not to get on the tangent and go, this is a whole nother topic, but he always seemed to carry himself in that way, kind of with a bit of arrogance. And he didn't really want people to ever cover his music. He always kind of shunned record labels, thinking he could do it all himself and kind of wanted to be his own thing. And I mean, I don't know, maybe they kind of took on that persona. Maybe he wasn't like that at all. That's just the way I viewed him of how he appeared to be.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about a couple of other records from this era that I think we all love here. Big records. And I might be missing a couple here, but I want to hear your reactions when I say these records, guys. Nicole Wray, Make It Hot.
There he goes. There he goes.
You already know.
We got the SWV record. Can We Get Kinky Tonight?
One of my favorite Timbaland productions. I love that one.
Got the Total record, Trippin'.
Oof.
I feel like that's
crazy.
one of the more underrated beats. That's one of his more underrated beats for sure.
I agree.
Yep.
Of course, we have the Playa record, Cheers to You.
One of my favorite songs of all time.
Amazing song.
Ed, you mentioned the Aaliyah record, Are You That Somebody?
Another one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yep.
And then we can't forget, Tom and Ed, about the Timbaland and Magoo albums, or the Timbaland solo albums, because those albums had a bunch of R&B on there too. Ed and Tom, I know you guys love the Ginuwine and Playa record, Joy.
Oof.
I love Joy. I love Birthday. Mm-hmm. I love stuff from the Indecent Proposal album. And I don't want to get too hip-hop-ish on it, but those albums are... People always hit your boy up. They always say, oh, you don't like fun. You just want rapidy rap beats. You want everybody to rap like Rakim. No, I just want to have stuff that's creative and that's inventive. And if it's going to be fun, like, let it be fun. Talking like you got a mouthful of somas is not fun to me. I like energy. And these albums, no, my man Magoo is not cannabis with the bars, although he sounds like it next to these guys y'all like today. But these albums are so fun, and there are so many R&B gems. Go back to the first album and look up Aaliyah's Man Undercover. That's one of her most fun songs that no one ever talks about.
Yep.
So there's so many gems that are just buried in those Timbaland and Magoo albums. I love them to death, especially Indecent Proposal. Another one of my favorite albums.
John Blaze was another one.
Yep.
If you're listening to this podcast and you never heard the Playa and Ginuwine song Joy from Timbaland and Magoo's Welcome to Our World album, log off for a second, check that out. Amazing.
I don't think you can. I think Blackground took that off.
Oh man.
Yeah. It might be on YouTube though.
It's on YouTube. I listened to it maybe a month or so ago. So it's around if you know where to look. I'll let me in the DMs if you don't.
Kyle, can I nitpick on something about Timbaland for a second? I'm gonna say something negative actually.
All right, because once you say that,
I gotta throw hands. But go ahead.
Once you say that, I'm gonna counter you with one of the best Timbaland beats ever. So whatever you say won't matter. So just go for it.
No, Timbaland, guys, and we have to keep it real.
Keep it real.
One of the worst rappers of all time.
I think
yes.
But he wasn't trying to be lyrical.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I don't think that he would argue that. I think that he would say that he does what he does. There have been times, again, y'all got to read those liner notes, because there's some times where he had some Jay-Z and some Nas writing some of those better bars of his. But he's not. He's just Timberland. He's just filling in the gaps, and it's fun. Well, nobody's going to accuse him of being some sort of top tier. That's the difference when I'm saying, y'all. It's okay if you're just a goofy rapper, but nobody tried to call him the king of rap like y'all do Migos and Lil Nas X and all these other weirdos. He knows his lane, and we appreciate him for that.
Well, all right, here's the pop quiz for you, because this will prove my point, is that no, he wasn't the most lyrical, but if you remember the line and the song that it's from, I think that's a gift in itself. So let me ask you guys this. What song is this from? Ritz's The Cracker That I Eat.
I have no idea.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my goodness.
And I've heard them all.
It's on the Here We Come record, the Spider-Man song.
It's been a while for that one.
No, I know that song, but I did not remember. He said, Ritz's The Cracker That I Eat. Although I'm sure he did.
Well, let me bring up this song here, because I think this, to me, and Ed, I know you love this lady right here, and the group, and for that matter, the rapper as well. But the Missy 702 and Magoo record, Tom.
Oh,
Beat Me 911.
That's in my top 10 Timbaland productions. I love the way. Shout out to our boy Magoo.
Yes.
I was glad to see he was been back on Twitter recently. We hadn't heard from him. Man, the way he just jumped on that track like he was jump kicking through a door. And man, I was going crazy.
I loved it. Missy tweeted out that video a couple of weeks ago, and I shared it and talked about my favorite verse is when he's like, dip and dive, staying alive. It's so stupid, but it's so, to what Kyle was saying, it's stupid, but you remember it. And again, we didn't try to act like he was a rap goat. We were just like, this is a funny thing this dude said. Again, I love that song. And
then to end off this Timbaland era is records like Destiny's Child, Get on the Bus, which is an amazing song. We've got Aaliyah's Are You That Somebody? And we have a couple of Ginuwine records here. Same OG, So Anxious, None of Your Friends' Business. I felt like, to me, those are some of Ginuwine's best records. Like, I know everyone loves Pony, but that second album, that had some cuts in there.
That's peak Ginuwine for me. This, for me, I'm showing my age, but this is like early college ed right here. So all of these have great memories. I'm riding around, I'm rocking these songs as I'm going out and being grown and feeling myself or whatever. So these are the songs that are like the soundtrack to my college years. I love them so much.
We can't mention these songs without shouting out Static Major, rest in peace. He was a big part of, these songs behind Ginuwine's biggest hits. Same OG is one of my favorites of all time. And man, when I was going back through Timbaland's discography, Static was involved in so many of these early ones, and it's just their chemistry was super dope. We didn't even mention the Say My Name remix.
Oh yes,
I love that one as well. Destiny's Child. That one's super.
I've been wearing that one out recently. I think I've told this story before. I was living in Louisville when Static passed away. I was working at a newspaper, and when he died, I'm like, oh my God, this is front page news. We got to get it in the newspaper. And of course, because this is 2008. Newsroom doesn't have too many people of color, so nobody knew who Static was. I went to like my boss's boss and was like, we got to get this dude in here because he was very instrumental in a lot of these big songs of the year. And he was like, well, what songs did he do? Like, I've never heard of this guy. And I dropped that song. He was like, wait a minute, he did songs with Destiny's Child? What? And like when he did that, he started researching. And that's when we were like, okay, we really got to treat this story seriously. So that song, whenever I think of that song, I think about how even in his hometown, people weren't appreciating how great Static was until I name dropped Destiny's Child. And it was like, okay, I guess this dude is a big deal. We know he's a big deal.
Kyle, can you just celebrate for 1 second Playa's debut album? I mean, we absolutely love that album. Front to back. Timbaland's work on that is epic as well.
Yeah, you know what? That album is it's a little different than the Timbaland music that he was doing at that time. When you listen to songs like Top of the World, when you listen to songs like All the Way, like that doesn't sound like the records that he was doing for SWV or Total or Nicole Wray. Like that sounded, I don't want to say more traditional R&B because Timbaland's never really been traditional, but those records felt more traditional than some of the other ones, but they worked. And
this was around the time, this era, and especially going into the next decade.
Yeah,
he changed the sound up because, to be honest, if you listen to a lot of early Timberland and Missy interviews, their thing is they always wanted to be different. They always wanted to present something different. By 98, 99, everybody was biting their stuff. And again, this is an era when copying another person is considered a bad thing. Now we copy each other. We don't care. We just say, oh, it's a tribute. Back then, that was a bad offense. So Timbaland was like, I got to switch it up. And he did that by making more soulful sounding records. He did it on the Alicia Keys album. I know we're not in the 2000s yet, but you'll see as we talk about this conversation how his sound evolved. And he wasn't just making those weird cricket noises for 30 years.
Guys, I'll tell you what, two albums, or rather two songs that I felt like was that change for Timbaland was, number one was Missy Elliott's The Real World album, the second album. Super dark album. And then we have the Aaliyah Try Again record. Like those two, I think we noticed a shift in Timbaland sound.
I didn't even.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
I didn't think of it. No, I didn't. I was gonna say I never thought of it like that. I got to think about it a little bit.
But
because I've witnessed so many evolutions of his sound over the years. I don't think I've ever keyed in on that one specifically. It's a good point, though.
Yeah, but I think
it was noticeable for sure. And I didn't even like Missy's album. I wouldn't say I didn't like it. I thought it was a disappointment because it was such a drastic dark change. I was kind of, my ears couldn't really adjust.
Yeah,
but it's one that has really grown on me in recent years.
Ed, I'm reading these comments. Our boy Shaquille Perry's going up. Ed has Missy's The Real World ranked as her fourth best album. A terrible list.
Wow.
I'm sure Shaquille is just mad because I don't have Aaliyah at number one on a Missy list.
But I'll tell you when I feel like Timbaland's sound really, really changed. It was like the early 2000s. It was that Indian sampling that he was doing. I don't think he was the first to do it. Was the Truth Hurts Addictive record out before Indian Flute?
Yes.
And We Need a Resolution? That was around the same time.
They were all around the same time.
Yeah.
That was all 2001.
Yeah, I'm curious.
2001, 2002.
I'm actually curious to see who was the first one to really, really do it. I see Butta in here. He's a producer that worked on the Aaliyah album. Shout out to our guy Butta. Maybe he'll know because he was around that camp. But I just remember songs like We Need a Resolution. Are You Feeling Me? I think had that vibe as well on the Romeo Must Die soundtrack, the Aaliyah record.
Truth Hurts Addictive released 2002 April. So
okay, so Timbaland was first, yeah.
Yeah, he was first, but again, the thing that you got to keep in mind with those productions when it's that close, like it may have been released in 2002, it could have been recorded a year before. So to me, they're around the same time. Who knows? But it was really close.
Well, then we have Big Pimpin' too, and that came out a couple years before all of these.
That was 2000, so that definitely was before.
Yeah.
Yes.
I gotta be honest, guys. I never liked We Need a Resolution. I just still can't get into it to this day. I don't know. I never felt like it was his best work.
To me, I feel like that's one of his more underrated beats.
Really?
On the flip side, though, as I've said before, I'm not big on Try Again. Like that one is the one that didn't really work much for me.
Really?
Well, to throw this conversation in for a curve, I'm not a big fan of More Than a Woman. So
Me neither. Me neither. I'm with you on that one, Kyle. They're
good songs. Yeah,
they're good songs. I'm not saying they're bad songs, but they're not songs that are high on my list.
I was going to say I prefer over We Need a Resolution. Don't Know What to Tell You from the I Care for You album, the Leftover song.
Oh yes,
I like that one too.
That's one of my favorite productions from him.
But let's talk about this era of Timbaland here. You had records like Indian Flute. You had the Bubba Sparxxx records, the Kylie Dean records. I feel like this is a really underrated Timbaland era. It didn't generate the hits that the previous era did. I'm trying to think. No, I don't think it did, but I think Cry Me a River.
No, they didn't.
But Cry Me a River was a big one. So there were some big songs here, and to me, that era of R&B, has it aged that well for you guys?
In a way, you got to look at it this way. Is it better than what we have now? Absolutely. Is it my favorite era? Not really. I know this isn't a Neptunes podcast. A lot of the Neptune stuff has not aged well because it feels kind of samey to me. Blue, blue, blue. Like it's like on every song. But I wouldn't say that it's bad, but he would have kind of a beat renaissance a few years later. And that's when I feel like his game was up. He did find a lot of chemistry with Justin. I know we can't talk about Justin in February. Good God, my man. But I thought he found a lot of chemistry and energy with him. His work with Ginuwine kind of slowed down at this time. Missy was kind of phasing out a little bit. So he found a kindred spirit with him, and that helped him a little bit. And I still say, we're talking R&B, but his work with Bubba Sparks. When I mention Bubba, y'all get all weird because all you remember is the Booty Booty song. That's some of his best work, especially that second album.
You know, when I first heard the Justified album, though, and that, Kyle, obviously you would know, don't know what you got from me. I was like, man, this is a production that would have been used for Aaliyah had she still been here.
Yeah,
I couldn't help but think that.
Course.
And that's my favorite song he did on that album. But yeah, definitely, I get what you're saying, Ed, about it maybe not having the same lasting appeal, especially some of the Neptune stuff. But I'm a Neptune fan. I still love this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, me too.
I can't get enough.
Well, guys, let me ask you about Cry Me a River. We're gonna talk about Justin. I don't care what anyone. He's apologized.
Good luck.
So he's good now. Cry Me a River. Why did this song work so well? He's a pop artist. He's coming into the R&B world, and this song is gigantic.
Yep, this is another one of those songs I remember exactly where I was on a snowy night in Louisville when I heard it for the first time, and was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get this dude's album now. It was right before his album dropped, like the week of or something. It was just, again, so different. Now, we talked about Timbaland's dark sound. This was dark, but it also just had some different elements in there, whether it was Marshall's little ad-libs at the end or a little playing around with the beat on that back half. There was so much going on that matched the kind of dark theme of the song. And it goes back to what I say in my reviews. A good song tells a story. So not only are the lyrics telling the story, but the beat is telling the same story. And it drives that narrative forward. To me, that's why it worked.
Just random question. Is this album an instant classic?
Justified?
Yeah. Was it? For what it was at the time?
Know. I don't know if I'd call it a classic, but I definitely think it's one of the better albums.
I knew nothing back then, obviously. It was 2002. I was probably 18, 19. I felt like the sound it had was incomparable to anything I was hearing. And I just felt like it was so well put together that I don't use that term lightly, instant classic, but I felt like it could be considered.
Oh, it was definitely groundbreaking at the time. I feel like that's kind of what you're saying here. Yes, it was definitely groundbreaking. And it was helped. I mean, look how much it influenced later on when everybody started kind of cribbing that type of stuff.
Yeah.
That's when you know when an impact is made. So, yeah.
Well, the reason why, I think it's an amazing album. It's probably my favorite Justin album. But even when you look at the Grammy nominations, they nominated that as a pop album. So I think for that alone, I don't know if it got respected as an R&B album. So I can't really say it's a classic because of that.
Well, a lot of that has to do with Justin's background. Justin Timberlake, so he's in sync, so it's got to be pop. And that's something we still struggle with today. We lock people in a box and refuse to let them out.
Yep.
Kyle, can you imagine this? I'm reading this comment here from our boy Jonathan B. What if Timbaland had produced Usher back in the early 2000s? Can you imagine that, Kyle?
I can't.
I can't either.
I can't. Jermaine Dupri, B. Cox, and Usher, that's the formula. I don't think Usher... Anytime Usher tries to deviate from that,
Neptunes though.
That's true. But aside from that, anytime Usher tries to deviate too far, it just doesn't sound right. He needs that Jermaine Dupri, B. Cox sound. In my opinion.
I'm not saying it wouldn't have worked, but it's just hard to wrap my brain around it because he's just so intrinsically tied to those guys. And the Neptunes too, from what you're saying. It's hard for me to put his vocals over top of a Justin beat. I just can't figure it out.
As we continue with this Indian sound that Timbaland was crafting. I really want to touch on these two records, especially Call Me by Tweet. We have Oops, but Call Me, when I listen to that record, it's still crazy to this day.
Yeah.
That beat's crazy.
Man, I love that album. I know Timbaland didn't do but maybe like 1 or 2 songs on that thing. But man, I love that album. And I love Call Me. When you talk about an album that is so almost neo-soulish, but needed like that commercial sound, and she went to her boy Tim and was able to do that, especially with Call Me and with Oops. That's the way to push it. And I know it fooled some of us in 2002 because we thought the whole album was going to have that sound. Yep. And it kind of tricked us when it had that more soulful song, which I appreciated. It was all good. Yep. But it was kind of a tonal shift. We weren't expecting that. We're like, what is this? I'm not hearing a lot of Oops. I'm not hearing a lot of Call Me's.
You know what's crazy though? When you talk about Oops, we're already talking probably 7 years into Timbaland's career, and that's another groundbreaker he had. I mean, that production for a soulful singer, along with the lyrics, which were super clever and risque at the time. I mean, man, this guy Timbaland just had so many groundbreaking moments, and that's why we celebrate him.
Yep, exactly. And then 2 projects that didn't take off, but I feel are notable. Brandy's Aphrodisiac album, which sort of had that Indian sound, but it was a lot darker, with songs like Finally and Focus. And then the Kylie Dean album, Simple Girl, that didn't come out. Got derailed by the first single. All the Aaliyah fans were pissed because
oh god,
as Kylie
cancel culture 2003. That's what that was.
That to me was the dumbest thing ever when they tried to cancel her because she referenced Rock the Boat.
Playa, can you imagine what would happen if that child came out in 2021 and did that? Like, y'all would throw dirt on her grave. But it's a shame. If you haven't heard that album, go to YouTube. It's fully on YouTube. I've got it. It's incredible. And again, some great Timbaland tracks on it.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is that, you know, she asked Timbaland for a song like Rock the Boat, and he didn't even produce Rock the Boat. Yep. So that's the ironic part about it. We discussed that before, but it's just not many people caught that.
Mm-hmm.
I did, and they mad about nothing. That's what I say. Yeah. You got your energy is all wrong. Mad about nothing.
And then Ed, Timbaland also produced the song Heartburn by Alicia Keys. To this day, I still don't believe he produced that song. That does not that doesn't sound like a Timbaland record at all.
Again, Playa, this was around the time he was kind of tinkering with his sound a little bit. Y'all know I love that album, and I know that when I heard it, I was kind of like, yeah, this doesn't sound like a Timbaland song, but it was just so different, and that's why I like Tim. You just never know what he's gonna hit you with and what direction he's gonna come from. It was cool.
I don't like that song at all, just being honest. I never liked it. Still don't.
It's different. I mean, it's not my go-to, but I can rock with it.
Tom, did you like the LL Cool J record, Headsprung?
I didn't hate it. It was kind of catchy at the time, but it's not something I've ever listened to in the past decade, to be honest.
That's true.
It's absolutely ridiculous, but I love it.
Yeah.
The next phase of Timbaland's career I want to talk about, this is when he started working with Danger, his protege, and they put together an amazing body of work. They had that run with Justin, Nelly Furtado, Keri Hilson, but I want to talk about these records because these were like the early stages of Timbaland and Danger working together, and I felt like these were some of Timbaland's best productions, and they're hip-hop songs, but songs like I'm So Fly by Lloyd Banks, Put You on the Game by The Game. Like, those beats are like crazy.
This to me was I called it like the second renaissance of Tim, around 2005, 2006. Yeah. It was like he kicked it into another gear. It was completely different sound than kind of what he came to be known for in the late 90s, but it worked. He was able to just reinvent himself and have so much. This is when he started playing a little bit with electronic stuff. And you could hear it a little bit with like Put You on the Game and some other songs. And it worked. It was just a different sound for a different era. He didn't run it into the ground. And as I've said a million times, nothing wrong with an artist changing up their sound or experimenting. You just got to know what works and what doesn't work. And he found out what worked.
Yep. So
is this the era, Kyle, when Icebox came out for Omarion?
Yeah, this was the Icebox era, the Anonymous era.
Oh, Anonymous, Bobby V.
Yeah. Yo, that Icebox record, I remember when that came out, it was first posted on Omarion's MySpace, I believe. I played that song to death. I was like, this is the most incredible thing ever.
That song, people love that If that song came out today, you know how many icebox challenges we would see all over Instagram? People love that
boy.
song.
Can we talk about, I guess, is he now the man that we're not allowed to talk about, Justin Timberlake? He's not at that level.
We can talk about. Oh, it depends on what corner of Twitter you go to. But if you got beef, you can see me at ET Bowser. I will tell you about yourself. Well, I'm tired of fussing about Justin. Apologize. Shut up.
All right. Well, this Future Sex Love Sound album, obviously we know Sexy Back was a game-changing sound, but Tom, let's talk about the rest of the album here. We have the T.I. record, My Love. We've got Love Stoned. We got What Goes Around, Summer Love. Like, there's some big hits on here.
I love the formula of this album where it was like song and then kind of interlude, which was another part of the song. And it was almost like a remix version. I thought that was so clever. They did that on a lot of the songs. It was cool to see Timbaland take the reins on most of this album. The Neptunes had the majority of his first one.
Yep.
And they just took it to a whole nother level. The creativity on here was amazing. You know, the singles were huge. And What Goes Around is probably my favorite on here, though. But there's some really great songs.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorite, too. I've talked before over on Soul and Stereo about just how, I don't know what it was about 2006. It was like one of my favorite years.
I agree.
And there was just so much greatness. And to me, this is one of the top albums of that year. It's just another game changer. Even to me, when I was ranking the best R&B albums of this decade, I didn't really include it because it was just, it felt like he was drifting toward that EDM pop sound. And unfortunately, they drove into the ground. Yes. But it started here. It started here, and I got to give it props for what it was able to start. It wasn't his fault that y'all ran it crazy. But this was a groundbreaker.
Well, Ed, were you turning up to Chop Me Up by Justin Timberlake and 3 6 Mafia?
I was turning up to Chop Me Up, Chop Me Up. I love that song.
That's a great song, actually. I like that song.
What about the Nelly Furtado album here, guys? Because I don't know if I would classify this as R&B, but this is as R&B that Nelly Furtado is going to get to. And, I mean, Timbaland had Nelly on urban stations. That was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily call it R&B. Early Nelly Furtado, my wife was a fan. She loves like that folk, I guess you would.
I'm like a bird?
Yeah, she likes that type of stuff.
No.
She loves it. So like that is kind of that, I can only describe it as folk sound, but he was able to kind of give her much more pop friendly edge and it worked. I wouldn't call it R&B, but it just was so well because she ain't the most powerful vocalist. So she was able to ride those beats and make some very catchy tracks.
It was just fun music, no matter what you call it. I enjoyed it. I will say Promiscuous, you had Timbaland singing, and it was just kind of another progression towards how there wouldn't be any more people caring about singing vocals anymore. We just accept whatever was given to us, and here we are.
Well, he was ahead of his time, so we'll give him a pass on that. But Tom, I have to ask you about this song right here. This is not an R&B song, but I just have a feeling that you hated this song in 2008. Boy. The One Republic record, Apologize.
I hate that song. It's just so annoying.
Why did I know this?
It's just annoying.
I didn't even hate that song. I got tired of that song.
Yeah.
I didn't even hate that one.
It was fine. What about the Way I Are?
Why? I was not a fan of.
That title bothers me, first of all.
Yes, I can't even say it. I'm an editor. It hurts my soul to speak. It's like I'm talking like Yodel. But yeah, Way I Are, I was not really digging that one.
All right.
No.
And then I think the last part of this era before we move on to the next phase of Timbaland's career is the Keri Hilson album. He didn't have any big singles on this album, but he had some great album cuts. But after this album, things started changing for Timbaland. I think Danja had left. He had a new production partner, my guy J-Rock. Shout outs to J-Rock. And I felt like at this time, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, because this time in R&B and music in general, this is around 2009. I hated this era, but I think this is when Timbaland started working with like Katy Perry and stuff, right?
Yeah, he kind of went pop. I'm looking at his Shock Value 2 album, which came out in 2009, and he had like Miley Cyrus on there, Katy Perry, Chad Kroeger. He started working with Drake. So it wasn't my favorite era of Timbaland. It was another evolution in his sound for certain. It didn't sound like anything like his early stuff. It wasn't even recognizable, though that was automatically Timbaland, most of it. So, it wasn't really for me.
But
same here. Like, I wasn't big on it, but again, this is around the time where music in general was changing. Like, everybody was trying to find stuff, and poor R&B, as we have mentioned 1,000 times, got left on the back burner in the back of the bus.
Yeah,
bus was broke down at the top of the street. So poor R&B got no love starting here.
But Ed, what about his work on Blueprint 3? Is that good?
I despise Blueprint 3. I'm sure that the millennial children in the comments will go crazy, because I have learned that pretty much any hip hop from like 2008 to 2013 is like considered godly, even the bad stuff. So like, I'm sure people will defend it. I did not like that era. I do not like that album. I didn't even like Tim's stuff on that album. I thought the album was aggravating.
I just remember that era because when that album came out, that's like when I first met Tom, and I asked him, "Did you check out this Blueprint 3 album?" And he didn't even bother. He's like, "It's probably not as good as Blueprint 1." And that was his answer.
By a long shot. Tom was right on that one.
Yeah.
It ain't no Blueprint 2, please.
So we fast forward a bit, and I remember this era so vividly because I think this is when we first started doing the podcast. Way back in 2013, because this is when Justin Timberlake's 2020 album came out, the Beyonce album came out, Jay-Z's Magna Carta came out, like that era. Tom, talk about Timbaland's work on the 2020 album, because that was very different for Tim, some of those records.
My favorite memory is that you stayed up all night till like midnight to hear Suit and Tie when it was announced that there was a Justin Timberlake and Timbaland and Jay-Z song coming, and hey, it met the hype, man. That's a great song. I love what they did with this album. 2020 Experience felt like that was another one that was kind of ahead of its time.
Yep.
I still think it's ahead of its time. When I listened to it, it didn't sound like anything else at the time. Still doesn't sound like anything else. And go down the whole track list, just very smooth, great album. I mean, it is a bit on the pop side, at times, but I love this album, the first part at least.
No, this one was a fun one. And actually, this is the era I remember well, because this was around the time I started working with YouTube jokers. Yep. So like, that's why a lot of these memories are very vivid for me. But I was very excited for this. Suit and Tie is like a song. If a song after your boy's own heart, if I could have a song dedicated to me, it would be that one. And it just worked so well. Jay did his thing on it. Timbaland, as you said, I'm still a fan, will always be a fan, but his stuff in the era I really wasn't that keen on. Right. This is when he really started turning around for me. The stuff on the Magna Carta album I like, stuff on Beyonce's album I like. He was really giving us a different sound, but it worked very well for me. And a lot of it started right here with Justin.
Yep.
I see the argument in the comments if part 2 is any good of the 2020 Experience.
It's worse.
Tar Heels fan. No, he mentioned Cabaret with Drake.
That is a good song. That's a great song.
That is probably my only song. I like TKO also, which was the single. Other than that, I really don't like anything.
I like it's easily his worst album. Well, no, because we forgot about the Man in the Woods.
Oh, the Woods is better than part 2, guys.
Oh no, sir. No, sir.
Oh, come on.
Part 2 is a disappointment and unnecessary, but it's not bad. I like Take Back the Night, even though that song is problematic. Everything Justin does is problematic. Just throw them away.
Why is Take Back the Night problematic?
How'd you miss this? Take Back the Night is like the name of, I'm gonna get crucified. Somebody's gonna tear me up. It's the name of some is it like anti-date rape organization? It's some organization.
Oh. And
he used the name and they were pissed off. This was a thing.
Wow.
If it's Justin Timberlake, we're gonna throw him in the trash. Trust me. So
yeah,
it was a bunch of
this.
I didn't know this.
Ed, weren't you on record as saying Justin Timberlake's last album they should have left it in the woods or something?
It sounds like something I would say.
Sorry, I'm reading the YouTube comments here as we go back to Blueprint. Someone said Blueprint 3 was one of Jay-Z's worst albums, a little bit above Kingdom Come. But someone else
put it below Kingdom Come.
Someone wrote Blueprint 2 was trash. Love Blueprint 3 though.
Wow.
What Blueprint 3 did you have, brother? Because the one I had was nowhere near Blueprint. Blueprint 2 was long and unnecessary because he wanted to do a double disc, like Wu had done and Biggie had done. So he had to do one. He didn't need to do one. But it was fine. Just cut out the garbage.
Mm. So after that, I mean, I know Timbaland has probably done stuff after that, but I think a lot of his focus has been on newer artists. I know he worked with Monica on a couple of records. I'm trying to think who else he's done work with, but
he had the label.
He had the Mariah joint, which
I
like,
and then the Tiana Taylor record. But those records, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's that Timbaland's sound doesn't work for me anymore, or if he's not using his sound and it's something else now. But I mean, in all of totality, when we look back at this career from beginning, even till now, like that to me is a legendary career.
If his career stopped at 2002, he would still be legendary. And then, like I said, he had that renaissance in the mid 2000s that just took him to another level. And then he had another one, like in the early 2010s, it took him to another level. He had essentially 3 breakout careers with a lot of great stuff in between. It's hard to have a track record like that.
And the craziest thing to me is like how we talked about just a small portion of all of the work he's done.
Yeah,
he's just like someone who lives in the studio and was just working nonstop during those times, just loves it. And man, such a vat. We probably haven't even heard the majority of the work he's done that probably never came out.
Nope.
Just to think about it. So, I mean, man, this guy, probably one of the greats. I mean, if you want to talk about the greatest producers of all time,
he's up
especially since the 90s.
He's up there.
I mean, you could argue, Dre, obviously, Timbaland at least has to be in the discussion.
I think so.
I have gone on record to say that, like, when we talk about greatest producers of all time, we're talking Dre, we're talking Premier, we're talking Timbo. Like, they're all up there for me.
Oh, yes. Jonathan B. mentioned Timbaland's now working with Justine Skye. That I'm actually excited about because I think Justine is super talented. Curious to see what Timbaland does with that.
And Justine is one of those talents that just needs that extra oomph. I've said the same thing about Tiana. Like, the talent is there. They just need like that muse to just like push them. And Timbaland could be that for her.
Oh, and it's unfortunate. He had the label and he signed Tink and B. Bozeman. And unfortunately wasn't able to get either of them to pop.
Yeah.
I mean, I guarantee couldn't focus on them. Like, he's got so much going on.
No, and we know, like, we all remember Beat Club in the early 2000s. Yeah. I had friends who worked there, and I know, and I won't put anything on Tim because there are stories with that too about how there was a lot of pressure on him and a lot of things pulling away from his focus on those artists. But it's hard. I think it was Usher. It was someone that I read an interview with about 10 years ago who talked about how difficult it is to be your own artist, yet manage other artists. Like, you're responsible for these other people's career and your own career. It's really demanding. So it's not surprising to me that a lot of these big time artists, their labels just don't pop off like that. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. I mean, Ed, and we can't forget about Miss Jade. That was
my girl, Miss Jade. Yes, I'm glad somebody brought her up. This is my girl. Somebody check out, before you get over here, Girl Interrupted. I love that album. 2003 or so, maybe. Oh, she should have blown up. That album was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Some of Tim's best beats, too.
We know you love Bubba Sparks, but from a technical aspect, PD Pablo, is he any good?
What kind
Raise
of
Up is it? Raise Up is a great song.
It is.
PD,
that beat is crazy.
PD is great at if you just need some high energy party rap, and that's what he is. Like, he accepts what he is. He is not going to give you any type of deep lyricism, even though he's done it a couple times on his debut. He's just what he is, and I respect that. Just give these dudes props for what they do, and stop trying to make them into something they ain't.
So we should give Migos props for doing what they do.
Nothing.
Yes.
Okay.
Give them props for nothing. Give them props for making potato chips. That's it.
Oh my.
Wow. All right. Well, before we get out of here, you know how this works. I know neither of you were prepared for this, or maybe you were. Tom, I know you definitely weren't prepared. You didn't even know we were doing this today.
Oh boy.
Can we give out our 5 favorite Timbaland R&B songs.
I'm ready.
I can do that.
You guys can do this?
Yes, I know you guys did a post recently on Timbaland, and I've done one in the past.
That's true. Actually, let's do 3. I don't have the mental capacity to think of a 5 right now. Let's do 3.
Right. I know this is favorite, right? This is our, and is this beats or song?
Song.
And it's his favorite, not what we consider.
Okay. Well, we can also do 3 favorite beats if you guys want.
No, I prefer songs if possible.
Okay.
I'll just do songs, Ed. If you want to do beats, Kyle, you can do
doesn't matter. They're going to be around the same anyway.
Well, I'm just trying
I'm doing it off the top of the dome, so I'm going to forget something, I'm sure.
That's true.
I'm sure Shaquille will be screaming at me because I didn't mention some random song.
Well,
oh boy.
When we think about beats, I think my favorite Timbaland beat might be the Game record.
That's up there for sure.
I think that's my favorite.
That's top 20 easily.
All right.
I'm going to do, my favorite Timbaland, I'm going to do songs that he produced. And number 1 for me, I'll start with number 1, Aaliyah, Are You That Somebody?
We started with number 1?
You named number 1.
No, that's my favorite beat.
He just did his favorite beat.
Okay.
I'll do my favorite. All right.
I'll make it number 3 then. I'm just kidding. That was number 3.
Okay. Oh my God.
All right, Ed, what's your number 3?
My number 3, because I think I have like 10 in my head right now. And we're talking songs, we're not talking beats. I don't know. I'm lumping them together. I'm going with Pony. Like, it's just, I was there when that song debuted. It will always stick with me because I never heard what sounded like freaking frogs on the beat. I didn't know what this was. Game changer for me. So that's number 3.
My number 3 is probably Are You That Somebody by Aaliyah, but there's another Aaliyah record that I'm going to put in the list. So I'll go with Icebox by Omarion. I'll just go with that one.
Oh, that's a good one.
I like that song.
I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah. Tom, number 2?
I wasn't really prepared for this, guys. I'm sorry. There's too much. There's way too many.
There's so much.
And you know what? Tomorrow I might wake up and feel differently. That's how much good music he's given us. So,
Tom, before you answer, are you gonna mention the Jadakiss record "Nasty Girl" with our guy Carl Thomas?
Oh no,
no.
We love you, Carl Thomas. We love you, Carl Thomas.
I forgot about that song.
No, I loved it at the time. Believe it or not, at the time I loved it. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, nah. Now the Jadakiss Neptune song, Going Up on a Tangent, Knock Yourself Out. Now that's a banger still to this day.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Wait, does Timberland have a song with Fabulous? I feel like he does.
Yes.
Yes.
It's not that good. It's not very good.
Make Me Better. I like
right,
song.
Yes. Is that the only one?
Wait, what? No, on Fabulous debut album.
That is also a Timberland song. What's the other one?
On his debut album, I'll look it up while you're making your next pick.
All right.
If anyone knows in the comments. But anyway, I'm going to go with my number 2. I'll just say, I got to go with Ginuwine's I'll Do Anything, I'm Sorry.
Ooh,
I find myself still going back to that one recently. So I'm going to pick that one.
Wow. Jonathan B said, I first heard Pony in 2013 and I thought the song was new. 2013.
Wow.
You must have been watching Magic Mike.
Oh my God. Anyway, but this speaks to how timeless that song is, that he heard it in 2013 and it didn't sound like 1996.
Yeah.
That's what I took away from it. Kyle, get your mind out the gutter.
Laurent asked, yep.
The Timbaland song on the first Fabulous album is called Right Now and Later On.
Oh, I like Right Now and Later
Wasn't a single.
It's kind of stupid.
So they paid all that money.
That song was fine.
For a Timbaland beat. They paid all the money. And it wasn't a single.
It wasn't that good of a beat, though.
No.
No, it wasn't a great beat. But I like the song. I forgot about that one. Look at Tom with the gems.
Laurent asked if Timbaland really produced Icebox. Let me answer this. I believe someone started on the track and Tim did his Timbaland thing on it. And actually, a fun fact is the guy that's speaking on Icebox, the I'm So Cold, that's not Timbaland. That's actually, I believe it's Ezekiel Lewis from The Clutch, since The Clutch wrote the record, but he was doing his best Timbaland impression. Timberland went in the studio. He was supposed to redo that part, but he said, "Hey, that sounds close enough to me. Let's just keep it."
That's pretty interesting.
And that was that.
I never heard that.
I didn't even know "Make Me Better" was a Timbaland production.
Yeah,
it didn't even sound like. It didn't sound like one to me.
No, it doesn't.
Yep,
Yeah.
it is.
All right. What are we at? Number 1 now?
No, I didn't do my number 2.
Oh.
Neither did you, Kyle.
Oh, my bad. Ed, what's your number 2?
We got all off on a tangent. Number 2 is another one that I'll never forget where I was when I heard it for the first time, and I've told this story back in when I guess it's our 96 podcast. Aaliyah, 1 in a Million.
Wow.
I never loved that song. I don't know. It's kind of slow.
Oh, it's slow and it's sparse and it's stripped down and it's everything that people love about R&B today. But at the time, it worked, and to me, it still holds up.
I always really liked "If Your Girl Only Knew" a lot better than that.
Yeah.
Now that one I thought was just okay, even at the time.
My number 2. See, I want to go with "Carry Out" by Timberland and Justin Timberlake because the song is just so stupid. But
how did you think of that?
Take my order like a carry out. Is that how the line? How that song goes?
Yes, that's how it goes. That's ridiculous.
That's an awful pickup line, but it could work. But my number 2 will have to be "Try Again" by Aaliyah. Jet Li's in the music video. They're climbing on the wall. Like, that's epic to me.
Oh my goodness.
Tom, what's your number 1?
All right, for my number 1, I'm gonna have to go with Pastor Troy featuring Miss Jade. "Are We Cutting" remix.
Wow.
Ed, that's the best.
Oh my god,
that Timbaland beat is crazy. I mean,
it is crazy, but that selection is also crazy. I did not expect that.
All right, sorry. Back to reality. Bubba Sparks featuring Justin Timberlake, "Hootenanny."
That's not a good
song. You haven't even heard that song.
That's okay. All right, for real. "Same Old G," Ginuwine. I have 2 Ginuwine songs in there. Probably one of my top 5 favorite songs of all time, personally. I'm gonna go with that one.
Well,
man,
Ed, since we're talking about Bubba Sparks, "Deliverance" might be like my favorite Bubba Sparks song.
I love that song.
Favorite Timbaland beat, sorry.
Album.
Because I feel like that beat with the country influence, like Timbaland killed that one.
Well, a lot of beats on that album were country influence. I can't even think of all of them now, but everything on that album sounds like that. It's just like, I was so amazed that he was able to take those kind of country westernish-y beats and make it sound Timbaland and make it sound hip hop. So that's why that album always stuck with me. That album is very, very good.
All right. What's your number 2 or number 1? Sorry.
My number 1. I mean, we might as well stay on the Dr. Dolittle soundtrack since Tom took it there. My number 1, "Are You That Somebody?" One of my favorite songs of all time.
Damn, I
that
thought you
baby
were gonna...
crying was epic in the day. Trust
I thought you were gonna go with "Your Dress" by Playa. I was fooled.
Great song. Great song.
I love the song though.
All right. Well, my number 1 is "So Anxious" by Ginuwine. I love that song. Just the background vocals by Static. The beat, which is simple, but it's also complex at the same time because it's not like on beat. I love that song.
Oh, we all love that song. That one of G's best, one of the best of the era, to be honest.
Yep. Yeah. So, guys, I think that wraps up this episode of Timbaland. We'll be back next week to maybe talk about another producer. There's a couple more producers that we can do this with, whether it's the Neptunes, Devontae, Jermaine Dupri, B. Cox, Darkchild. There's a lot. And actually, one time we have to shout out Timbaland for putting together the whole versus battle. We have to give him some credit for that because he's responsible for
question.
that. But I guess that's it for the Timbaland discussion here. Ed, what's going on with SoInStereo.com? I hear you gave Robin Thicke some love.
I gave Robin Thicke some love. So as you know, a couple weeks ago, I don't even know if we recorded when I did this, I ranked his whole discography. And even though they're the albums we love, you know me, your boy gonna keep it real. And my issue with most Robin Thicke albums is they're just not consistent. They just aren't. But his new album is one of his maybe his most consistent work yet. Check it out. It's called On Earth and in Heaven. got the review on Soul and Stereo. It is worth your time. Check out that album. Probably so far, I know it's just February the 13th, but probably my favorite of the year so far. So go check that out. We've been talking about Tim all day long. Yep. Also, if you're a hip hop head, go check out my review. Well, not review, my ranking of 25 of the best Ninth Wonder beats. If you don't know Ninth Wonder, yes, you do know Ninth Wonder, because he produced a lot of the stuff on Destiny Child's Destiny Fulfilled album, a lot of stuff on Badu's album. He has his hand in a lot of R&B, of course, a lot of hip hop too. And shout out to Ninth. He gave me a shout out for that work on that too. Check that out. For my movie lovers, we got a review of Lovers Rock on the site. And stay tuned. I got a head-to-head coming on Kendrick Lamar. Man, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. And if you're still in the Timberland mood, you can check out my 25 best Timbo beats. I did that a few years ago, and that's on the site.
Nice. Sorry, Ed. Your Ninth Wonder list. Do you have Little Brother's Hiding Places on there?
Little Brother is up there. I don't know if Hiding Places made it. There are like 5 Little Brother songs up there. Playa. I can't remember.
How does Kyle even know that?
I know, right?
What the heck?
That's the only Little Brother song I know. I don't even know how I know that song, but it's fire.
It's a song to know. I'm not mad at this.
Yes. Anyways, Tom, what's going on with You Know I Got Soul?
Well, a whole bunch of new music dropped in the past few days, which is crazy because I was just telling you, Kyle, and complaining that nothing is coming out. So check all that out on the site. Our Robin Thicke interview is out. Check that out. We were happy to interview him for the first time after all these years.
Yep.
Other than that, you know, we've been still putting out these top 10 lists. We have the Timberland article we put out. Got some other things we're working on behind the scenes. So head over to the site and check us out.
Yep.
Tom is not lying. I went to the site today because I've been trying to catch up on music because I've been kind of behind in the past week. There were like 10 tracks that came out since the last time I stopped by the site. So go get caught up.
Yeah, I think you'll like the Lucky Day one, Ed. That's a good one.
I haven't gotten to that yet, but I've heard good things.
Yeah. So, guys, I think that's it for this week. We might have to bring a guest on here again to talk about these epic producers, but we'll figure that out next week. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. As always, we'll be back next week. I think we'll be back next week. You never know, but we'll be back.
Never know.
And you guys continue to stay safe. We're almost out of the dark, or we might just be in the beginning of it. I don't know, but
listen,
very
guys,
optimistic player.
Just grab a bag of conversation hearts and ride it out. You'll be good.
Yes.
Oh my God. You can go and make chalk figures on the street because that's the only thing they're good for. Draw on the sidewalk.
Actually, I have one more thing to say before we get out of here. I'm late to the party, but I finally tried the Popeyes chicken sandwich.
Oh, what did you think?
That thing is the greatest thing since anything. It's worth the lineup, Ed.
It's worth. Well, thankfully there are not any lines anymore thanks to COVID. But yes, it is worth the hype.
You might have to eat some fried chicken.
Maybe. I mean, I'm still.
Tom wouldn't like it.
I had the Chick-fil-A one, the spicy one. It was all right. I mean, I don't get the hype with all these fried chicken sandwiches. Give me my plain grilled chicken. Make it neat.
God.
I don't want any gunk on there.
All right, we're out of here.
Guess we out.
We're all right. You guys take care. We'll be back next week.
Go eat your chalk.